The Doom franchise is full of action and filled with monsters and a slayer who never backs down. In this video, we're diving deep into the entire Doom storyline. This video is a full compilation of the stories from Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 2016, and Doom Eternal, all of which we covered previously. As a bonus, we've also included the story of Doom 3. That makes this the definitive Doom story breakdown, a must-watch for anyone looking to understand the full story before Doom: The Dark Ages arrives. So, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll cover the classic trilogy, Doom 1, Doom 2, and Doom 64. Then, we'll move on to the modern era with Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. And finally, we'll wrap things up with Doom 3 as a bonus edition to complete the picture. Back when id Software was still independent and fresh off the success of Wolfenstein 3D, it began work on a new engine and a new title. The goal was fast-paced action in a futuristic setting with more gore and a much darker atmosphere. Though originally planned to have a deeper plot, those were stripped away for the sake of pacing and near-constant combat. It starts on Mars, in a facility set up by Union Aerospace Corporation, while players control a relatively unknown Marine. While things seem uneventful enough, the UAC has been experimenting with teleportation, causing demons to invade the dimension. They strike Phobos, Mars' larger moon, causing the Marine to venture out with a squad and answer a distress call on its base. Unfortunately, the team is decimated, leaving only the player to complete the mission, kickstarting the game. Battling through various facilities from the base's nuclear plant to mission control and central processing, the Marine arrives at the anomaly where two Barons of Hell await. Despite overcoming both enemies, there's still no path home. Unlike Phobos, the forces of Hell have begun warping their surroundings, resulting in lava, flesh walls, blood pools, and other environmental anomalies. New demons also stand in the Marine's way as he ventures to the next big bad, the Cyber Demon. Victory is obtained in short enough order, he finally meets the Spider Demon, who mastermind everything. Of course, the Marine emerges victorious with some help from the BFG 9000. Unfortunately, this is only the beginning of his troubles, as the demons have invaded his home planet, which leads to Doom 2. The world is in ruins, and there isn't much to do but lock and load. Doom 2 ventures across 30 levels. The remnants of humanity plan to abandon the planet through the starport. It's easier said than done thanks to the enemy guarding it, but together with other soldiers, the Marine breaks through, allowing the rest of humanity to escape. He also discovers that the demonic forces have been emerging from his hometown, and upon slaying them, a new path to hell is discovered. There's only one way to close it. Naturally, the Marine pulls it off. Earth, or what's left of it, is saved. Now seems like a good time to talk about what was new in Ultimate Doom and involved Tim Willits, who's since gone on to become Chief Creative Officer for Saber Interactive of Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 fame. It provides a bit more context on how the forces of Hell ended up on Earth to set up the events of Doom 2. As it turns out, this was the work of the Spider Mastermind. Though the Marine battles through a city full of demons, it's not enough to stop them from overrunning the Earth. You also have Final Doom, which added new content, each with 32 levels, TNT Evolution and the Plutonia Experiment. After all the chaos wrought by the UAC's experiments, you would think they'd dial it back and not try to mess with Hell's forces. Alas, the experimentation begins anew. In TNT Evolution, the corporation tries their luck on Jupiter. However, when a gateway to Hell opens, the attached squad of Marines handedly disposes of them. Things are seemingly on the mend for the UAC, until one of its ships is revealed to have emerged from Hell, with demons laying waste to their entire base. Away from the base on a walk and thus avoiding the initial onslaught, it's up to the Doom Marine to slay the demons once again. If only things ended there and humanity stopped messing with other dimensions, but alas. The Plutonia Experiment sees the UAC under new management, and despite still having a base on Jupiter, it's now working at the behest of Earth's governments to forestall future invasions. These include quantum accelerators intent on closing gateways. Experiments attract the demons, and while a gate opens, it's also successfully shut. The forces of Hell thus come up with a new plan: open a ring of multiple gates at the same time. Despite closing off 6 gates, the 7th endures, and the demons thus pour forth, overrunning the base while the gatekeeper stands guard. As you might have guessed, it's up to Doom Marine, who ventures into the base alone once more to stop the demons. He eventually succeeds, taking down the Gatekeeper, and it's all happily ever after. Or it would be in another universe, but this. Instead, we arrive at Doom 64. The UAC's facilities have been abandoned due to their radiation levels, necessitating a quarantine. However, one satellite observes something and informs Earth's government. It's a being that's capable of bringing the demons back to life with its powerful healing abilities. Not wasting any time, the Doom Marine is called forth once more to defeat them. Except this time, the demons are ready. This results in the Marine being sent to Hell, the Doom equivalent of "I'm not locked in here with you," etc., etc., eventually obtaining a laser-based weapon that becomes the most powerful in the game. He confronts the Mother Demon, the new big bad, and defeating her, the Doom Marine decides to stay in Hell and combat the demons, ideally to prevent any further invasion plans. This would be the setup for Doom The Dark Ages, which then leads into Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. However, in the 2020 port of Doom 64, id Software added a new campaign called The Lost Levels. It involves the Doom Marine taking on Resurrector, the sister of the Mother Demon. The latter banishes him out of Hell and onto an Earth base, but he eventually returns to wreak more havoc. The end message further cements the Marine's decision to stay in Hell, noting that Resurrector's plans had failed. Whether it's obvious or not, this is meant to segue into Doom 2016, though this would have been before plans to develop the Dark Ages even began. The lore in Doom Eternal helped flesh out a few things, like the Slayer arriving in another dimension, and through various twists and turns, ended up joining the Night Sentinels to slay demons. It was only through trickery that he would end up sealed in a sarcophagus before Dr. Samuel Hayden retrieved it and brought it back to the Union Aerospace Corporation's Mars base. But there's still so much more we don't know. Was the Doomslayer banished by the forces of Hell once again, as Resurrector had successfully done? Will he meet with Samur before his eventual journey to Earth and perhaps learn more about his intentions? Will we experience events like the betrayal faced by the Night Sentinels leading to an all-out battle for survival in Hell? Perhaps we'll get to experience all these events which granted the Slayer his title, and the battle against the Titan chosen as the Demon's champion, who also faced his demise. There is plenty of room to explore other interesting events, perhaps providing more details on King Novik, the Night Sentinel's leader. We may even experience the fateful battle in the Blood Arena, which led to the Slayer impressing them enough to provide further training, which led to his joining the Sentinels. It may be a bit anticlimactic if the game ends with him sealed in the sarcophagus to set up the events of Doom 2016, but who knows? Between piloting an Alten mech to beat up giant demons and participating in airborne battles with a dragon mount, there may yet be a climactic battle to close things out. Campaign DLC is also in the works, which could serve as the true bridge between the titles. Either way, let's now move to the next part.
You are rage, brutal, without mercy. But you will be worse.
Rip and tear until it is done.
id Software started Doom with some of the hardest lines ever written in a video game, and nothing had happened yet. To further set the stage for what was to come, the 2016 soft reboot/sequel didn't have any pre-release reviews. No one knew what to expect, and given the reputation of Bethesda Softworks, at least when it came to such embargoes, there was skepticism. It all came crashing down with that first glory kill, the first satisfying crunch. Immediately, it was apparent that Doom was something special and, above all else, back. The journey had been long for the Doom Marine. When we last left off, he had returned to Hell to take down the Resurrector, wreaking havoc on all demons before finally emerging victorious. After everything that happened, the invasions of Earth, the constant transgressions of demonic forces, the Doom Marine reaffirmed his plan to stay in Hell and make the lives of its many nefarious denizens that much more painful. After an unknown period, however, he ended up back in our dimension on Mars, albeit sealed for who knows how long. Unbeknownst to him, the Union Aerospace Corporation, UAC, was up to its old shenanigans harnessing Hell's energy. What began as a mission to provide energy to Earth spiraled horribly as the facility staff dabbled in the occult and even ventured into Hell to capture demons and modify them. They also brought back a mysterious sarcophagus, which was found in a tomb littered with various incantations and held in place, almost like someone wanted whatever was within to not escape under any circumstances.
Responsibility for the horrible events of the last 24 hours, but you must understand. Our interest in their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
While Samuel Hayden, an android later revealed to be housing the mind of a UAC scientist and, well, something greater, ran the facility, another key figure was Olivia Pierce. As head of biomechanical research and Hayden's protege, she covertly worked with demons to allow them to invade the facility. The overall goal was humanity's subjugation, again, with the forces of hell ultimately breaking through to our dimension. When this happens, much of the staff, even those subservient and welcoming of the demons, are brutally killed. Things are quickly thrown into disarray, and it seems that the demons will finally succeed. That is, until Hayden awakens the contents of the mysterious sarcophagus. After killing some low-level possessed humans and retrieving his Praetor armor, the Slayer resumes his initial mission, to wreak havoc across hell and all its demons.
If he awakes, it could jeopardize the entire mission, for he is the only one who can stand against them.
Of course, Hayden won't leave the Slayer to his own devices that easily, especially when the latter starts destroying equipment for refining energy, the same harvested from hell. To receive more details and ultimately stop Pierce, the two start working together with Vega, an AI running the facility, providing support for the Slayer and even facilitating upgrades for the Praetor suit. Eventually, the Slayer catches up with Pierce, who ventures to the facility's tower for her final gambit, opening a rift to hell by detonating an accumulator device. The tower is subsequently destroyed and the Slayer is teleported back to hell, which is the textbook example of, "You're locked in here with me," as he begins stomping through the realm slaying demons of all shapes and sizes. His trip is short-lived though, as eventually he returns to Mars and meets up with Hayden in person. Upon receiving a device to help with teleportation, which certainly won't come back to bite him, the Slayer is instructed to find the Helix Stone, an artifact that offers more information about the energy source. The energy source is ultimately what's powering the portal letting the demons run amok. Shut it down and the Slayer can halt their advance. However, it also tells him of a weapon called the Crucible. It's back in hell, so in the most sensible of plans, he kills a cyber demon, takes its accumulator, and ventures back. Several dozens and dozens of dead demons later in the Titan's realm, and the Slayer retrieves the Crucible. With the weapon in hand, the next step of the plan is to venture to the energy source. The only way to do that, unfortunately, is by sacrificing Vega. The Slayer goes to the facility housing the AI, destroying the servers and cooling infrastructure before finally going to the core and triggering a meltdown. Before Vega's untimely demise, the Slayer makes a backup of it. While it doesn't mean that Vega lives once more, it does open the door for its eventual return in the future.
The process is over.
Thank you, Vega.
The destruction of the core offers enough energy to open another portal, this time sending the Slayer to the energy source. With the Crucible's power, he proceeds to destroy it and shut down the portal. However, he also runs into Pierce, who survived the explosion of the tower. She's subsequently turned into the Spider Mastermind thanks to the demons, and they battle in hell before the Slayer emerges victorious. Once more, the demons have been stopped before they could invade Earth. At least, that's what it seems like. The Slayer returns to Mars and is betrayed by Hayden. Still keen on harnessing the energy, he takes the Crucible for his own nefarious plans and sends the Slayer away. And thus, the story ends for now. When the UAC first discovered the sarcophagus and brought it back, they opened it to discover the Doomslayer in a sort of stasis. It's unknown how long he'd been sealed, but they couldn't wake up or even harm him due to some kind of barrier. They also dubbed him the Doom, all caps Marine, more or less confirming his identity as the same Marine from Doom 1 and 2 and Doom 64. Furthermore, a battle took place when the UAC was removing the sarcophagus, with the demons displaying an instinctual ferocity previously unobserved. Almost like they knew exactly what was within and tried everything in their power to ensure it remained sealed inside, which of course failed, and the rest is moot. Slayer's origins trace back to a time of unending conflict, molded by torment and driven by a deep desire for retribution. Rather than succumb to the horrors he faced, he transformed that pain into purpose. His relentless fury and strength eventually led him to a powerful warrior order, the Night Sentinels, where he earned his place among their elite rank, serving alongside those sworn to defend their realm and uphold its code. When you look back on the original Doommarine who slaughtered demons relentlessly through sheer grit, it's worth wondering how he became the Doomslayer. Granted, the moniker was earned through his long-standing campaign against Hell's forces, thus cementing his legend. He came to embody the title over time, but it was only after encountering Samar that his campaign entered a new phase. Around that period, his speed and strength increased noticeably, further fueling his push against the forces of Hell. What followed was a period marked by vengeance, where the Slayer's name became etched in Hell's history, out of fear. Legends of his brutality spread as he tore through the demonic ranks with unmatched intensity. By executing weakened foes in brutal fashion, the Slayer could instantly recover lost health, allowing him to stay in the fight even at death's door, and, for a brief moment, gain just enough invincibility to push through the chaos. What's particularly interesting is how many of the upgrades discovered in the game aren't innately tied to the Slayer. Instead, they're more focused on upgrading the Praetor suit and unlocking new perks, improving weapons, and fitting new mods to significantly alter them, and using runes for passive benefits. However, for all intents and purposes, regardless of the state of his equipment, the Doomslayer is becoming stronger as he kills more demons. Such was his power that the demons were pushed back deep into Hell. Whether through sheer luck or by enlisting its aids, they would bring a Titan who came forth to challenge the Slayer. While they engage in a battle, eventually the Slayer emerges victorious and the Titan is slain. To say that the forces of Hell were beyond desperate at this point would be an understatement. There's a point in the Slayer's long war across Hell where he may have received his signature armor. It was handed to him by a mysterious figure known only as the Wretch, a name deliberately kept hidden. Alongside the suit, he was also equipped with a powerful sword and shield, both described as nearly indestructible. This encounter appears to have taken place while he was moving across realms and timelines, suggesting that the armor might have been acquired even before many of his more well-known battles. Doom the Dark Ages could finally offer answers to where and when these weapons were truly forged. If this happened after defeating the Titan, then it would give more credence to the part about his growing power. It also paints an even more dire picture for the demons. If they couldn't stop the Slayer when he didn't have the armor or these new weapons, what chance would they have now? Eventually, the Slayer was baited by the demons. Upon his arrival, it was brought down and seemingly immobilized him long enough for sealing in the sarcophagus. The mark of the Slayer was engraved upon it, and thus, he was trapped within the tomb for an unknown number of years. Then, one day, Samuel Hayden and the UAC's expedition uncovered the sarcophagus. Of course, there are a lot more details to go through to properly trace the story back to the Dark Ages. For example, in the UAC report about the Doommarine, the Slayer's sarcophagus was originally kept at Lazarus Labs. It would eventually go missing, and it was believed that Hayden had moved the Slayer's body and the Praetor suit. The reason is unknown, but perhaps he knew exactly what the Slayer was. Maybe he knew of Olivia Pierce's pact with Hell and ready to trump card in case things went south. Then we have the Wraiths, who played an important role for the Night Sentinels and in their downfall. We will delve into it when covering the story of Doom Eternal. While the Slayer had been sent away to who knows where, the threat of the demons hadn't waned. 14 years after the incursion on Mars, Hell's forces made their way to Earth and pretty much transformed it into a hellish wasteland with 60% of its population dead. The corrupt agents are causing havoc, the UAC is pretty much a full-blown faction of Hell at this point, and the resistance movement known as the Armored Response Coalition, or ARC, The UAC is pretty much a full-blown faction of Hell at this point, and the resistance movement known as the Armored Response Coalition, or ARC, isn't enough. However, just when the forces of Hell think they've won, somehow, the Doomslayer returns, ready to rip and tear once more until it's done. But that's a story for another time, unfolding in the 2020 sequel, Doom Eternal. When we last left the Doommarine, now the Doomslayer, he had been teleported to somewhere by Samuel Hayden. While the fallout from the Spider Mastermind's defeat remained unknown, destroying the energy resource meant the portal would be shut and Hell's forces denied their invasion. The day was saved. How he would continue his campaign of vengeance against the demons is also a mystery. Of course, as the saying goes, somehow the forces of Hell returned.
The deceiver, Samuel Hayden, has fallen.
The Ark is no more.
This area is no longer...
Years after the events of Doom 2016, it's revealed that they've taken over, killing a ton of people. The planet has become twisted and marred thanks to the demonic influence. Some left, cryogenically frozen in spacefaring lifeboats, but the governments and leaders who remained formed the Armored Response Coalition, or ARC. Though it's overwhelmingly outmatched by the demons, led by 3 corrupt agents and bolstered by the massive Thrall, the ARC continues to rebel. Behind the scenes, the corrupt agents, previously known as the Order of Daig, and the Forces of Hell worked with the collaborator Khan with the demons from Hell. While she controlled the Night Sentinels, which opposed the demons, the collaborator feared that someone would destroy her. Wanting to sustain her control, the collaborator would take any steps necessary. The Doom Marine would subsequently arrive on the scene and join the Night Sentinels, followed shortly by an attack by Hell's forces. To give them a fighting chance, Samur enhances the Marine to push to its maximum limit. This granted the Marine enormous strength, creating the Slayer and allowing the Night Sentinels to defeat the demons. It was also a part of a larger ploy by Davath, as he was manipulated by the Khan and Samur, but we'll get to that much later.
Portal ready in 3, 2...
During all of this, the collaborator eventually learned about Hell Essence. She would work with the Order of the Daig, who falsely claimed to serve the best interests of King Novik and the Night Sentinels. Further investigations into the demons revealed the truth of a unique energy. By using Sentinel energy from the source that empowered the Night Sentinels in exchange for protection and Hell's Essence harvested from human souls, that unique energy was formed. On the one hand, this energy could prove great power, even powering weapons like the Doomslayer's Praetor armor. However, it also meant conquering numerous worlds, killing endless numbers of humans, and harvesting their souls. Spurred by the desire for greed and wary of the Doomslayer, the collaborator would push for more energy. Eventually, she would form a pact with Davath, siphoning the energy for herself. The demons would subsequently have free reign over the collaborator's area, torturing humans and creating soul spires for energy. Eventually, the Night Sentinels would learn of these plans and wage war against Khan. The Night Sentinels were pretty much finished at this point, but hilariously, Hell's forces weren't victorious. That's because the Doomslayer continued doing what he does best: ripping and tearing. Not necessarily in that order, but effectively enough to instill fear into the demons. Despite everything they tried, it wasn't enough to stop the Slayer. If anything, he was becoming more powerful and more relentless. Thus, the demons did the only thing they could, laying a trap and sealing the Slayer inside of the sarcophagus, where he slept for an unknown number of years. Of course, Samuel Hayden and the UAC would discover him, and the ripping and tearing would begin anew.
That control pod contains the energy source of the BFG 10,000. I'm lowering it for you now.
Telling you he's on his way! I need you to...
With all that out of the way, we come to the start of Doom Eternal. The demons have laid waste to everything, and the Ark is out of its depths. Suddenly, the Slayer ventures forward, accompanied by Vega, or a copy of the original from the previous game. Wasting no time, he slays Daig Nilok's corrupt agent. Venturing further, he discovers Daig Renak's, one of the corrupt's agents. Renak's demise causes the collaborator to step up her plans. Following Vega's advice, the Doomslayer locates Samuel Hayden, or at least his damaged body, and the Crucible. He then finds out Daig Grav's whereabouts. The Slayer takes down Daig Grav and Khan. The day may have been temporarily saved in Doom Eternal, but unfortunately, the demons aren't done by a long shot. The Slayer ventures out to find the Samur, and learns that he's Samuel Hayden after implanting the latter's consciousness into it. The Slayer then makes his way to Hell's blood swamps, but he finds the Davath's life sphere and takes it with him instead. The goal is to resurrect Davath and slay him. This will kill all the demons currently outside of Hell and perhaps, finally, end their invasion once and for all. The Slayer ventures forward, taking out any opposition. After inserting the Davith's life sphere into the device, and what form he should take but the Slayer himself, he then invites the Slayer for a final showdown. However, the Slayer now faces another demonic invasion, but ventures forward. While he's seemingly alone, the Night Sentinels arrive to back him up, signaling the start of a massive battle. The rest of the forces deal with the demons, while the Slayer eventually comes face to face with Davith. The latter then makes a shocking revelation. While he invaded other realms and fought the Khan's forces, he was defeated by one who took his role, and later became known as the AI Vega. He wanted the Khan to fail by using the Slayer, which caused her downfall. Of course, he also spurred Samur to turn him into the Slayer. All of this was for naught though, as the Slayer would ultimately defeat Davith and put an end to the demons running amok outside of Hell. The Slayer would fall unconscious, however, since not only is he fueled by the unique energy, but also the Davith's. Afterwards, he would be sealed back in the sarcophagus. Maybe he's being left to recuperate. Maybe he'll one day return and wreak havoc on Hell's forces once more. For the time being, however, the Slayer rests and awaits an unknown fate. Chapter 4 Bonus Doom 3. After the classic era, and before the franchise was reinvented with Doom 2016, id Software took a very different approach. Enter Doom 3, a game that emphasized horror over speed, atmosphere over aggression. Regardless of whether you like Doom 3 or hate it, another question emerged post-Doom 2016 and Eternal. Is it canon? Before we delve into that, let's outline the full story, which features, surprise surprise, the Union Aerospace Corporation, or UAC, up to no good once again. It's once again set up as a research facility on Mars, and it's conducting morally questionable experiments yet again. The player, an unnamed Marine, accompanies Elliot Swan, a UAC board member, and Jack Campbell, his hired gun. They arrive at Mars City and enter the UAC's facility to meet with Dr. Malcolm Petruger, who oversees the facility. Master Sergeant Thomas Kelly serves as the player's commander. After Swan and Petruger discuss various happenings at the facility in a less-than-friendly fashion, you're ordered to find a missing scientist. Venturing into Delta Complex, the Marine finds the individual attempting to warn Earth about some teleportation experiments, just as another goes wrong.
Devil, it's real. I know. I built his cage.
I'm getting abnormal readings here. This is bad. We can't hold these levels. We're losing it.
Help us.
The Mars facility is impacted at once, and as with previous entries, Hell's forces have crossed over. The Marine is thus caught in a battle for his life, as he must kill the personnel who have been turned into zombies and various demons. Upon arriving in Mars City, he's told to rendezvous with another squad and put out a call for reinforcements from Earth. To do that, he must obtain a card and use it in the communications facility. It's easier said than done with all the monstrosities roaming about, and if that wasn't enough, Swan is also heading to the same location to ensure no communications leak about the invasion. The Marine meets up with the squad, but they're subsequently killed after an ambush by demons. The communications facility is also destroyed by Campbell on Swan's orders, but a backup system is available. It's here that the Marine can decide to inform Earth about the situation and send for reinforcements at Kelly's behest, or listen to Swan. Regardless, the next step is Delta Labs, and it's revealed that Petruger is in cahoots with Hell's forces and wants reinforcements to arrive so that demons can spread to Earth. After escaping from an attempted murder by gas, the Marine ventures further into Delta Labs and learns that Petruger has been conducting expeditions into Hell. He also conducted a dig under Mars and discovered the remains of an ancient civilization. It's here that the scientists discovered the Soul Cube, which is meant for fighting against the demons. Petruger would thus deposit it into Hell, presumably to prevent anyone from accessing it and trigger the invasion. While attempting to capture Petruger, the Marine falls into a trap and is subsequently teleported to Hell, and though that's not the best news, it means he can now search for the Soul Cube. Upon obtaining it, he returns to Delta Labs via some leftover teleportation tech. The main teleporter is destroyed, and Swan reveals that Kelly is also in leagues with Hell's forces. He then chases after Campbell and discovers him near death in the central computer processing sector. Kelly has gone full demonic and cybernetic while also wielding the BFG 9000 stolen from Campbell. Eventually, the Marine succeeds and obtains the BFG 9000. From there, it's a battle against the Cyber Demon. Using the Soul Cube to defeat it and seal the opening, the Marine has stopped the invasion of demons. For now, of course. While he survives and has to explain the carnage to the reinforcements from Earth, Betruger escapes to Hell and becomes a demon. Doom 3 would receive an expansion, Resurrection of Evil, and an additional mission, the Lost Mission, exclusive to the BFG edition. The latter is about the ambush squad from the base game, or rather its lone survivor who works with Dr. Richard Myers to destroy a teleportation array. The process involves collecting parts to activate the teleporter and then going to Hell. Once the array is destroyed, he returns, and the ending subsequently ties into Earth's reinforcements arriving at the facility. Resurrection of Evil, on the other hand, is developed by Nerve Software instead of id, and takes place 2 years later. Players venture to a UAC satellite after some strange occurrences and discover an artifact which the player can wield. Unfortunately, Hell's forces have emerged again. After meeting up with Dr. McNeil, who actually told Swan and Campbell about Betruger's experiments in the base game, thus setting up its events, he's told that the only way to stop this new invasion is for the artifact to return to Hell. This involves defeating the Hell Hunters, who unlock new powers with the artifact, and eventually Betruger, now transformed into Maledict. One rough battle later, and the player is eventually greeted by McNeil, telling him that he's returned home.
Marine? Marine, welcome home.
With all of this in mind, the question emerges once more. Is Doom 3 canon? It isn't necessarily canon, it is absolutely considered part of the Doom universe per the developer though. Of course, fan theorizing has continued since then. One popular theory is that Doom 3 is just an alternate dimension, one with its own standalone story that's nevertheless connected to the universe, or multiverse as a whole. The multiverse as a concept was already established in Eternal. Hell has been on a quest to conquer the world, so the Doom 3 universe may just be another that it attempted to invade and failed. There are certainly questions about the hell that the protagonists of Doom 3, The Lost Mission, and Resurrection of Evil ventured to, and how they connect to the locations that the Slayer ventured. We don't know the exact size and scale of Hell, so it's hard to say, but it wouldn't be surprising if another reference is tossed into Doom: The Dark Ages to provide the vaguest of connections. Unlike other Doom titles, Doom 3 leaned into characterization, voice acting, and cutscenes. The action was slower paced with a focus on darkness. Some levels were so dark that players had to whip out a flashlight to see, though they couldn't wield a gun as well. This atmosphere is further accentuated by the creepy sound design, resulting in more of a psychological romp. Fans weren't exactly over the moon with all of this, especially the constant swapping back and forth between guns and the flashlight, which it amended in the BFG edition to mixed results. Lo and behold, id Software would again abandon the approach with Doom 2016. There was lore to collect and some cutscenes, but it was all about the brutal, gory gameplay. Doom has had an incredible journey over the years. The developer looks significantly different than it did more than 21 years ago when Doom 3 launched. But it's incredible how it's managed to retain the overall gameplay loop of the current Doom series without going too far off the rails. With Doom: The Dark Ages offering a return to the more grounded combat of earlier games, it should be interesting to see how it carries the narrative forward, even if we know where it all leads. After all, this is likely the beginning of the Slayer's journey, laying the groundwork for everything we've seen in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. It ties everything together in ways that fans have been eager to see explored. That's all the story for Doom so far. And now, all eyes are on the Dark Ages to see how it deepens the everything and sets the stage for what's to come. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.